So I'd like you to keep this in mind as I go through this little bit of talk here. There is one power, one infinite creative intelligence that is the love, the field of love that is permeating and saturating everything, individualizing itself through each one of us and through each particle of matter, through each erg of energy, through everything. It is this one power and presence. It is infinite. Keep that in mind. So how come it doesn't always seem that way? See, the thing is anybody here under a year old? Maybe Jack. Probably not, though. Um, so we have all these experiences that we have lived a lifetime gathering, which we have made judgments on, which we have held close as the tenets of our belief, have struggled with, done spiritual work on. All the things that have happened in our lives have generated ideas, as the reading said, that we cling to, sometimes claw to. Usually my old ideas are covered in claw marks before I let them go. But in doing that, there's in me, and I'll give this as in me because I don't want to place this on anybody else. But if you relate to it, okay. In doing that, I limit my motion forward, the ability of my inner self to think of something being different than it was. And that can be problematic. Now, there's good parts of that. I believe there's one power presence, love intelligence that is everything. I find nothing wrong with that. I believe that people are intrinsically good. There is nothing wrong with that. I believe that there is intelligence that is expressing itself in each and every one of us as the unity of that love, regardless of whether or not I agree with them. It is the same love intelligence moving through everyone always. I believe that. There's nothing wrong with those beliefs. The beliefs that are life affirming, that are the expression of the desire for community, for unity, for an understanding of our connectedness despite the appearance of our isolation and individuality. These things are the parts that lift us up, that are that creative expression expressing through us and as us, that lighten our moments, that bring illumination to the often dusty road of life. And they buoy us up. And yet there are others. There are others that we hang on to that no longer serve us, that no longer allow us to reach the awareness of the inner presence, of the infinite power of love, of the infinite good of life. Now, in New Thought, there are generally just 5 areas that we're working on stuff: health, wealth, relationship, creative expression, and spiritual understanding, or I like to call it spiritual awareness. And sometimes in our lives, I live a life in which certain portions of these are unbalanced. It would be really nice if they were all going at the same time to the same level, but it doesn't seem to go that way for me. So, for instance, I can be experiencing delightful relationships with those I love and those I encounter and just reveling in that, but clinging on to ideas of lack and limitation. Or I could be reveling in a beautiful morning where I woke up, I'm feeling grand, my life is good, I'm healthy, I'm strong, I'm capable, I'm moving forward, but I'm feeling isolated from my awareness of spirit, encapsulated in my body in a way that doesn't allow me to express that vitality that I'm feeling for the good of all. Works well for me, but it might not be working well for the community that I'm working within. So this unbalance is kind of where we find the claw marks on our old ideas. You see, the human being has a tendency to believe that things are actually static. Now, we may say that we don't believe that, but then we tend to count on things being as they were yesterday. And the reality of it is that there is no stasis in which we live. Everything is in motion. We have moved thousands of miles from when I started talking. The planet has rotated. The planet has circled around the sun. The galaxy has rotated. Just zoom out as far as you want. Everything's in motion. My thoughts are in motion. Everything continues to flow through me, yet I continue to think that this thought that I have is a static thing. But it is not. And it's a really good thing that it's not. There is a basic principle which I cling to. It's one of those beliefs that I've got claw marks in, is that principle is not bound by precedent. And I love this idea. I love this belief. You see, if principle were bound by precedent, then we would be destined to live the same day over and over and over again in a groundhog-like experience where nothing changed because nothing could change. And the beauty of it is that as we move away from this consciousness of stasis, we find ourselves with an ability to say a great phrase. It's the talk of this title. And I say it often, especially when I hear other people claiming some limitation. Up until now, I can see the practitioners nodding because they heard that a lot. Up until now. And what that means is that in this moment, everything is unfolding new, whether or not our perception sees it that way. Everything has an opportunity to take a new change and direction to unfold in a better expression of good, a better expression of life. Now, this because new thought works both ways, we can make our life better or we can make it worse. The power doesn't really care. It's our ability to choose where we are going, what we will be doing, what we will be thinking, what we will be accepting and believing, that is the beauty of this principle not being bound by the precedent of what has happened in our lives. In my own life, I have a precedent of that is filled with scars, and I will not get into details. Take a practitioner class with me, you'll find some of them. And those scars can limit my belief in all of those 5 areas of development for basic things. And I have found that first of all, I'll say this for everybody, recognition is the statute of limitation. Okay? So once you recognize that you have this belief in something that is holding you back, it is now incumbent upon you to make a choice. You can continue along the path that if you have recognized that you have a belief that is holding you back, is potentially not a growth point for you, or you can say to yourself, up until now. Until now, I have believed what has been limiting my expression of spirit through the channel of my being in any one of those areas. Or you can change your thinking. And it sounds simple, doesn't it? Change your thinking, change your life. Let's go skipping down the path with nothing but roses, peaches, and cream. If it were that easy, y'all wouldn't be here. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, interchange requires some effort. It requires us to recognize the old thought coming around again because our thoughts of today are what's going to unfold tomorrow. That's how the law works. Law always responds the only way it can. It says yes to whatever we're believing today. And so that's what's going to come about in our experience because that's what we believe is going to come about in our experience, positive or negative. We have a choice to move into a positive thought, to move into something life affirming whenever we recognize that old thinking is limiting our experience of life. And how do we recognize that? It's usually called irritation. When something displeases us, when something seems out of balance, when something is disharmonious with how we envision life being, we are clinging on to some old that is bringing that one around again and again and again until we can set the statute of limitations on it and say enough. In New Thought, we know that thoughts are things. This is where it begins. It begins by claiming a new thought. I want you to just, for a second, close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Pick an area you want to be better in your life. Now open your imagination to the best that you can possibly imagine that situation being. Got a good picture or thought? Not all of us are visual or sound, saying. Okay, come on back. You can open your eyes. You can do more of that during the meditation, I'm sure. It's as simple as clarifying an idea of what we would like to be experiencing, and then actually working with the affirmation. Okay. We want to affirm that the divine principle behind that goodness that we are looking to experience in our life is available to us, not because I deserve it, although we do, but because that's the way the law works. When we have a clear mental equivalent of all of the good that we want to experience in our life, it begins to be experienced in our life. This is the point at which up until now allows us to change. When we can release the former idea that has been holding us back and bring ourselves into this understanding that in the infinite potential of divine spirit, that which we desire is already available. In this instant, we can turn our thinking towards that good and allow it to unfold in our lives as an expression of all the good that is available to us. It really works. The fun part about it is watching it work. So part of the process of letting go of the old, and this is kind of critical to this process working, is when we endeavor to change our thinking, it begins with an idea, but for it to have full impact, it has to deepen into a belief. And so what I have found in my journey to date is that one of the best ways to start instilling these new ideas, whether they be about my health, my wealth, my creative expression, my relationships, or my spiritual awareness, is to start to act as if. Because one of the most powerful messages to the universal law is to not only think of these things, because sitting on the purple pillow and clarifying the idea that you want to experience in your life is a critical part of what we do, but then aligning your actions to those life-affirming thoughts is the next step into beginning to experience them. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to accept all of them at this moment. We can, and it's really great when we do. But sometimes it requires priming the pump. And because we are in the 21st century, I'm going to explain what priming the pump is because it's actually something that somebody may not know. So back when we all had wells, that you had a handle that you had to pump the water directly out of the ground, they used to leave a cup of water next to the well. Because what you had to do is when you started doing this, the seal that brought the water up for whatever the source of the water was could be dry, and it would not create the suction that brings the water up to actually be used. So they left a cup of water. It was kind of the duty of the last person to use the well to fill a cup of water and leave it next to the well so that it could be poured into the mechanism to wet the seal that created the suction that brought the water to the surface. So priming the pump is finding some small action that is in alignment with the good that you are seeking. Whether, it's health. Today I'll take a walk. Today you might need to do it on skis or in a snowshoe, but it's activity. Or if it's wealth, today I'm going to give of myself, whether it be my time, my talent, or my treasure. And just do it. Doesn't matter if it's $1 or $2,500 or $25 million. Just do it and recognize what happens. In relationships, one of those areas where we have a tendency to sit around and say, boy, I wish I was meeting new people and then never go out to meet new people, is find one area in which you can feel safe and insert yourself into it. Because it's always going to feel uncomfortable when you're trying something new, but then it won't be new for very long and it will feel very comfortable. And then all of a sudden you will realize that you were awash in relationships. If perhaps love is what you're looking for, be open to it as showing up. It may show up in a way that's different than you envision, but if you're open to it, love will appear. In creative expression, it's very simple. Just do whatever you're going to do next and recognize that your activity is part of the creative power unfolding a newness in the world that we have not yet seen. It could be as simple as writing a note, drawing a picture, go make a snowman. Well, we need a little more snow than that, but than we have at the moment. But some creative activity, some small activity that moves you forward. It doesn't have to be the Mona Lisa, or the Doge's Palace, if you've ever taken a look at that. It can be something small, but it primes the pump for creativity to move into your life. And spiritual awareness is probably the simplest of the avenues, but possibly the most difficult. Pray and meditate. Meditate and pray. Give someone a hug. Make a call. Connect. Be the love that is the intention of spirit for all of us. So, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever you're having a challenge with, just remember, until now, the limitless power of a divine source of creativity is available to you always. And so it is. Namaste.